This is the Principles of Animal Science lecture. Make sure to take notes so you understand what each point is talking about. When we are talking about principles of animal science, we are talking specifically about domesticated animals and birds. By definition, domestication is animals that are tamer, therefore providing a positive interaction with humans. They thrive under artificial conditions. You can think about this like zoo animals, as they are put in habitats that are made for them. These animals also reproduce regularly in confinement, whether that is natural or regulated by the owner. This also has raised a dilemma with many people, as these animals that are domesticated may become more dependent on man. Some look at this as an ethical dilemma. Why do you think so? Take some time to write down why you think this is an ethical dilemma in your notes. When we talk about ethical, it does bring up some different organizations like PETA, but is it actually going to be a real issue in the future? If we think about ethical dilemma, what do you think will happen to these animals if humans died? This is a major question being asked. Will they survive? This is one thing that we are going to look into throughout the year. In Principles of Animal Science, one of the other things that we talk about is, what do these animals provide humans? Well, obviously, the very first one is going to be food. Out of all that animals provide humans, 90% of it is food, whether that is a product like meat, or that is a byproduct off of an animal like milk, or some kind of byproduct that goes into our food. Next one is clothing. Okay, we have wool. Power and draft. While we don't use a lot of horses and cattle nowadays for field work, it is still being used in other countries. Recreation, we're talking about rodeos or dog shows. All those are going to be for recreation. Companionship, there's a reason we have pets. Psychological benefits, they use animals a lot now as therapy, and so we can see that they are providing that benefit for those in need. And the last one is profit. This is typically what we see with animals in our area, because we're selling them at fair. We are also selling them at the livestock exchange, the sale barns. That way we can make a profit to make a living. While animals provide us a lot, we also provide for them. We have to provide them food. Just like we were talking about the ethical dilemma earlier, what happens if we don't feed, say, a dog at home, or we don't go out and feed our cattle? Are they relying on us to do that? Next one is shelter. These animals all count on us to provide them some kind of artificial shelter so they can survive in the weather. We also provide vet and healthcare. Take them to get their annual rabies shot. We take them when they have an abscess. We have to take care of our animals just like we would a human. Protection. There's a reason we have fences, and also why a lot of farmers have guns is because we have to protect our animals from unforeseen circumstances. Last thing, which we don't really look at in the livestock sense unless you talk to certain people, but care and affection. These animals, they have feelings. Just like when you have a dog at home and you're gone for a couple days, they get really clingy because they miss you. Same with cats. This can be also seen in the livestock industry when your animals expect them to be around you all the time. So when we're talking about animal agriculture, there's this big dynamic that we talk about because they provide so much for us, and it's like the circle of life. It just keeps going round and round. This is something that we're going to talk about now, and then at the end of this lecture, you are going to provide this dynamic for a specific animal. So this is a key point to understand. So in this dynamics of agriculture, the circle of animal agriculture, as I like to call it, there is always a way for it to go all the way around. So when we talk about this, I like to start at the animal section. Okay, at this animal section, there is something that they always provide. Okay, they provide some kind of product, which takes us to the next bubble. This product can be whether that is showing, if it's money, if it's a actual product like pork, or something that we can use. That is the product. Okay, that product is obviously used by the humans. Okay, through conservation of what we do as agriculturalists, we conserve a product. So for instance, if we're talking about an animal, specifically I'm going to talk about pork real quick. So animal is pig, product we get off of it is pork. Okay, that pork, so specifically let's talk about a pork chop. Okay, that human eats it. What is the conservation point of this? Well, the conservation point of this would be what happens to that pork chop after I eat it or after I sell it. Okay, it does go into sewage. But where does this sewage go? This sewage, through conservation, goes back to the earth. Okay, you've seen farmers put out fertilizer and everything. Well, that manure or that fertilizer gets reused to help sun, rain, soil produce better in the future. Okay, on that soil, then, we produce a crop like corn or wheat. Specifically going back to pigs, we produce corn. That corn then is going to be eaten by the pig in the future, and this cycle starts again. This cycle works for any type of product. If I want to talk about a football made from leather, okay, that leather, it is used by human. Okay, conservation on it is, well, once that football is flat, I'm going to go throw it in landfill. Well, over time, that will disintegrate into the ground and become soil, therefore starting that cycle again of corn, then pork, or pig, then pork. Through this dynamic of animal agriculture, as we've talked about before, the biggest thing that we get from animals is food. Food plays a major role in our survival, but also we have to look at it in a standpoint of food security. When we talk about food security and surviving on the product and getting it out to consumers, there are 4 pillars: food availability, food access, food supply stability, and food utilization. We're going to go through each one of these. The first one is food availability. When we talk about food availability, it is actually what is available to the consumer. When we talk about availability, the first thing we talk about is quantity. How much of it is available? We are currently seeing this with avian flu, which is hurting our chicken production, chicken and turkey. So if you look at that, we're not getting a lot of quantity because there's been a lot of death of chickens. Okay, the next one is quality. So when you talk about quality, that is your decision. Ask yourself, when you go to a store, what type of peanut butter do you buy? Okay, I am Jif all the way, but my husband, he likes Peter Pan. Okay, that is my decision of quality that I want. Your quality changes based on several different aspects, but that quality changes food availability. Are you willing to go cheap, or are you going to go expensive? The third point of availability is if it's domestic. While we do have great services that can get us food fast or from other places, is it domestic or is it able to be found in the US? Okay, where we live in the Midwest of the US, is it easy for us to get fresh seafood? The answer is no, because we don't have those big bodies of water that have that great crab or lobster. Okay, most of that has to be imported into our state. Okay, so domestic, we're looking at frozen, not really fresh in that sense. But if you go to other parts of the state, are there things that we are missing as a nation that can be found in other countries? Okay, availability is affected by that domestic product and what is available, which leads us to the next one, imported. Okay, what types of products are imported to the US that we can eat? Okay, we have a lot of different ethnic groups in our country, therefore a lot is imported to give those people a taste of home, if you'd say. There's also a lot of foods that, not specifically animal products, but there's a lot of foods that are imported. For instance, pineapple and avocado. Those aren't really products that we can grow here, therefore they have to be imported. But if it's available in those countries, they're going to ship it to us. The US has really expanded on our animal production, therefore we don't actually import a lot of different animal products. Okay, we can get seafood, we can get pork, we can get chicken, but we also export a lot of that to other countries. The next one is food access. So while I talked about stuff being available, do we actually have access to it? Okay, so we're talking about fresh seafood. Do we have access to buy fresh seafood? Not really, unless it's caught in a lake around here. Therefore, not going to be crab or lobster. Okay, ability to buy is the very first point. Do we have the ability to buy this product locally? Okay, do we have access to it here? There are some places that don't. When we talk about ability to buy, we also have to talk about socioeconomic levels. Okay, for instance, food stamps. Food stamps set a certain area of product that you can get. Okay, it's not going to be the most expensive product. It's going to be something that has enough staple ingredients and vitamins and minerals to help a person survive at a cheaper cost. Next one is school lunches. Okay, past couple years have been different for school, but now we're back to school lunch or free and reduced lunch based on socioeconomic status. One of the reasons we have this is so we can provide a good lunch to every kid, no matter the way their socioeconomic or their income is at home. Okay, the last one is charitable organizations. There are many organizations, just like, for example, Food Pantry. Okay, they provide access for those who cannot get this food as easy. Another one would be a program called Outreach. The Outreach program, they provide boxed meals that go to food pantries, and all they have to do is have water at home and some heat to cook them. Okay, you can also look at soup kitchens. Any of those types of businesses or organizations will help provide access to food for those in need. While availability and access are important to food security, one of the major ones is food supply stability. Okay, this can cause a major issue in getting products out. Okay, the first one, natural disasters. If we think back to any time we've had a hurricane, that can hurt the seafood supply. Okay, a tornado, any type of damage. So, like this summer, where we had the big 100 plus degree days that killed thousands of cattle and feedlot. That hurt our food supply of the beef industry. Okay, war. During war, while we don't think about it as a food supply stability, they can block off people from getting aid or products getting out, therefore causing issues in food supply to those in their countries and also income to those people who try to sell that food to make money. One we've seen through history would be famine. So if you remember the potato famine and how bad that hurt the Irish. Drought, we see this one a lot with us. We've overcome this in the past in our crops, but it's kind of difficult to do with our animals in the area that we live, like we saw this summer. Last one is loss of food due to food safety issues. Okay, this is when we're talking about waste. How many of you go through the school lunch line and at the end you are throwing majority of your plate away just because you didn't want to eat it? Let that sink in, because this is an issue. In our lunchroom, we can see 2 or 3 trash cans of food getting thrown out. Okay, that could potentially have been 50 to 100 kids' meals. So that supply stability is just being thrown away. It's going to waste. The last type of food supply stability that isn't on this list that I'd like to talk about is actual food security. This has been an upcoming issue in our nation and our world lately because of terrorism. Okay, so we can kind of lead this one back to war, but bioterrorism is a big thing that people are scared of now. When I talk about bioterrorism with food, this means inserting something into a product that is getting spread or causing food to spoil. So for instance, if I had a truck full of meat and I released, or someone released, maggots or something onto that truck, all that meat would go to waste. Okay, that's bioterrorism. Example of this that we have actually seen kind of happen in the past is a truck full of canned goods coming in, and someone can take a syringe or take a can opener and insert some kind of liquid, maybe antifreeze or something like that, into that can that can cause food issues later on down the line. Okay, we kind of see this when we talk about E. coli, but E. coli wouldn't be considered bioterrorism. Okay, that has to do with bacteria and not handling it, which is leading us on to the 4th point of food security. When we talk about the 4th key point of food security, we talk about food utilization and how it's used. Okay, first one is health status. Okay, made at home versus buying from a convenience store. Okay, health status. This can be also vegan. This can be someone who eats meat. The health status of a person changes how we utilize our food. Okay, if I were to go vegan, which is not happening, that means I want to eat as much meat product, therefore changing how I use food. Okay, balanced diets. If it's a balanced diet, I should get equal parts protein, vegetables, fruit. If I don't have a balanced diet and I'm just eating salads or I'm just eating candy, then my balanced diet is going to change the way I use that food product. Third one is sanitation. Going back to the E. coli, if you don't wash your fruit and vegetables, or if you don't clean your cutting board after cutting raw chicken on it, you have the chance of getting sick. So sanitation is a very large issue. The 4th part of this is adequate, safe water supply. While this doesn't seem tied to food in a sense, we use water in everything. When you're making mac and cheese at home, when you're making chili, when you're trying to make a cake, you're going to use water. If you don't have safe water supply, there can be an issue with that food. On the other side of this, if you're actually feeding that water to animals, that animal can get sick, and then that animal could potentially die depending on if that water is clean or not. So with these 4 concepts, food security is a major issue tied to animal agriculture. We're doing everything we can every day to make sure we have an adequate food supply. That way we can have availability, access, stable supply, and also using the food correctly. When we talk about animal agriculture, the person doing the work is farmers. These farmers and ranchers look a lot to that bottom dollar, or how they're making their money, because that is their livelihood. So we're talking about the food dollar. When we're talking about the food dollar, 20% goes to the farm and 80% of the expenses and off-farm costs. So what I'm saying is, for every dollar a farmer uses, they only get 20 cents that actually goes back to the farm. Therefore, 80 cents is going to any type of expense. Maybe that's diesel, maybe that's getting a new barn. All of that goes somewhere else other than their pocket. So when we're looking at our farmers, one of the biggest thing that they're looking at in the animal side is that feed to gain ratio. This is something we will hit upon many times throughout this year, but this is going to be the first point of which you see it. Okay, we call this the feed to gain ratio. We are talking about how many pounds of feed it takes to gain 1 pound of meat on an animal. The closer we can get this to a 1-to-1 ratio, or the lower the better. Okay, the reason for this is because feed is expensive. If it takes a cow 4 pounds to get 1 pound of meat, that's not going to be really profitable for the farmer. If we can get that cow closer to, say, 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 gain ratio, that'll be better for the farmer. While we're looking at that bottom dollar a lot, there are a lot of other concepts that are hurting animal agriculture or causing some issues for farmers. The first one is going to be the change in population and consumption. We are in 2022, and if you click on that link below, theworldmeters.info, you can see what our population is at. We are expected to be at 9.5 billion people on this planet by 2050. That's only 23 years away. With that, we are seeing a decrease in land mass because there's no place for those people to go in the cities. Cities are already full, so where are they going to go? They're going to have to expand outwards. So when they expand outwards, we are also losing production area. We are producing as much food as we can in this area we can now, but what's going to happen in those 23 years when our population increases? It is said right now that the world population increases 80 million people per year. Okay, much of this increase is in developing countries. These developing countries don't have as much resources or best land to grow these agricultural products. Therefore, it's going to have to come from other areas. Right now in Kansas, one farmer can produce enough to feed 155 people. That number is going to have to increase to about 200 and 250 people by 2050 to meet the demand of the population. Is it possible? I don't know. We'll have to see. With this increase of population, we are also going to have an increased demand for products. We're going to have an increase in bread. We're going to have an increase in chicken, in pork, in beef. There's going to be lots of products that we're going to need to increase. That way we can meet the demand of this growing population. So while we have that increase of population that is going to affect animal agriculture, the other side of that is consumption. There are many subjects under consumption that we're going to talk about. Okay, the first one is income. We've kind of already talked about this a little bit. Through the years, our income has increased. Okay, if you talk to your grandparents, great-grandparents, maybe even your parents, they can tell you how much the dollar has changed through the years. Okay, so through the years, our income has increased. Therefore, we're looking for better quality food. Okay, for example, as a college kid, you probably are going to want a lot of ramen. But as soon as you graduate and have a big kid job, you can afford better noodles or going to Noodles and Company all the time. Okay, but until that income is increased, you're not going to look for that better quality. So the first part is better quality. When we're looking at better quality food, we're also looking at the nutrient content. Okay, does this have a better food label than the other one? Okay, palatability. Going back to our peanut butter earlier, I love Jif peanut butter because I love the way it tastes. My husband likes the Peter Pan one. How you like that palatability or the taste of it on your tongue is going to change what quality you are buying. Okay, the last part is brand. Brand is a promise, just like that peanut butter. Okay, if I were to say brand for clothing, you have a specific brand that you're going to go to automatically. This is the same for food. After your income, we also look at convenience. Okay, after a long day of work, would you rather make a meal from scratch or just buy something and get it out of the freezer and throw it straight in the microwave? Okay, that is convenience. That's why they're called convenience stores. How easy is it for you to get a full meal without even cooking something at home? Next one with income increase is brands or specialty items. There's certain items that you can't get through certain grocery stores or certain companies. So you're going to try to find those specialty items elsewhere. Okay, an example would be you buy some kind of fancy oil, truffle oil, or some kind of fancy meat through Amazon, okay, or beef jerky. It's not something that we carry, but you can still get that specialty item from somewhere else. All these concepts are because that income is increased. You have the ability to buy those products. Next is developing countries. In developing countries, we buy more products. Okay, they don't care about really the quality, they care about the quantity. The next factor to look at is the geographical region of where it's grown. Okay, we know a lot of beef and pork is grown in the Midwest. What about these other three products? Look up where these three products are geographically raised and report your finding in your notes. Where these products are grown is going to affect where they are eaten at and whether they are able to be imported or exported also. The next factor is the season of the year. A lot of products are eaten at certain times of year because of whether it's holiday trend or weather influence. What holiday increases the amount of turkeys eaten? What holiday increases the amount of hot dogs eaten? Okay, these are holidays and where they tend to increase food supply. Okay, next one is weather influence. When the weather gets cold, are you going to eat a popsicle? While some people might, you might be looking more towards soups. These are going to be affected also on whether or where you are located at. The last four factors are kind of quick. Okay, the first one is religion. Okay, there's certain religions that don't eat some species. For example, Hindu don't eat cow because they think cow or beef is holy. There's some religions that won't eat shellfish. Okay, this ties to religion. Okay, next one ties a lot to the way you were raised or what you like. Okay, family traditions. What are your traditions? What about variety meats? There are a lot of different family traditions that will change what you eat certain times of year or change what you eat in general. Okay, my parents love liver, but I am the generation that does not like liver. Okay, there are other ethnic groups, like Hispanic, that like to eat meduo, if I'm correctly saying it, which is cow stomach. I'm sorry, I will not do that. Okay, there are other variety meats. So when we're talking about variety meats, those are the organs that we don't typically eat, but they are a muscle. So this would be like heart, again, liver. Then you have oxtail, kidneys. Do you eat those? Again, we've talked about it before, availability. Okay, consuming it affects if you have the ability to actually buy it or find it. Okay, the last one is consumer confidence. Do you know what you're getting? Okay, based on your brand and based on what you like, you know what you're getting from a product. Okay, I know that if I'm going to Freddy's, I'm going to get a smash burger. I know that if I'm going to KFC's, I'm going to get fried chicken. Okay, that is what I know I'm going to be getting there. Okay, again, consumer confidence is your economic status. Are you comfortable with buying that product, whether it's a high or low price? The last slide and the last probably major part of animal agriculture is the change in the U.S. farm. Today we are seeing fewer farms. We are seeing farm size change. We're seeing more specialized farms, but we're also seeing that less than 2% of the population actually lives on farms. When we talk about specialized, there's more farms that are becoming one species dependent instead of trying to do multiple things. Okay, it has been said the more things you try to do, the harder it is to do them all well. This is what we're seeing with farmers. We are seeing a rancher just have beef. We are seeing a rancher just have a dairy. There's not many farms that will have multiple species. These multiple species farms are what we call hobby farms and aren't really industrial or commercial sized farms. That's because they're trying to focus on many little things that they can do well, not many large things. If you look to the chart to the right, you can see that through the years from 1950 to 2012, the farm size has increased, but the number of farms has gone down. Okay, a lot of this is because a lot of people are getting away from that farm. That 2% of that population, okay, there's not a lot of second or third generations going back to the farm anymore. So when we're talking about principles of animal agriculture, there's a lot of factors that play into this, especially with our farmers and the people running those farms.